When you're improving the way that you do software, one of the key things you do is change what your team composition looks like. The people who actually work on the applications day to day that embody the way that your business functions, the way that features are added to your app, the way that you do strategy as code, or as some people like to call it, digital transformation. We in the Tanzu world, in Tanzu Labs, one of the first things that we do when we're helping people improve the way that they do their software is we move them to a balanced team approach. A balanced team approach is all about changing the way that you actually think about, plan, and develop your software. That first word is one of the key things that's different. It's not just about developers and people writing code, but as the name might imply, you're balancing skills. So on a team, you have the various roles or functions, the capabilities needed to focus on this one application that you're doing. You have engineers or software developers, product managers, and you also have designers. Another key aspect, in addition to bringing these roles in, is focusing on just one application instead of focusing on multiple things or just one part of an application. This might be the money transfer part in a banking application. It could be when you scan groceries in a grocery store on your cell phone. It might be signing up for an account at a bank. It could be any number of things that are a discrete application. And of course, there are also edge cases that are not exactly applications like APIs and backend services, but don't get obsessed with that kind of stuff while I'm trying to explain the basics. So you have this focus on one application. Now, what do the roles on this team do? Let's start with the product manager, which is a role that I find often doesn't exist in most large enterprises. This role is one of the more important ones from a business perspective. And the product manager, they spend their time focusing on if the application and the features in it are viable. And what that means is, will it help two entities out, at least? That is the business that they work for, the organization that's using the software to run their business. Is this helping achieve whatever goals the business has? You can think with signing up for a bank account. Is it getting people to sign up for the bank account as effectively as possible, or does it not work? Does it help? But they also focus on the viability, the usefulness of the application for the end users. So they have this knowledge of what the end user, what the customer wants to do, and they're prioritizing along those two matrices when it comes to their core function, which is selecting what to do each release, week by week, which is the cadence that most people stick to. So that's what the product manager is doing. The product designer is focused on the desirability of something, not only which fonts are used and if there's drop shadows on things, but they're focused on the question, is this an important problem for the user to solve? Is there a better way to do this workflow? Are we thinking about the right way of helping a customer solve this problem in the way that we implement the software? What the UI looks like? If there's even something in a UI, where we surface things in the workflow. They're focused on the question, does this design solve the customer's problem and also solve the problem that the business has? Now, finally, the one most people think about are engineers, or as I like to call them, developers, coders. Now, their job, obviously, is to write the code that moves the pixels on the screen and does all the business logic and stuff like that. But they're also focused on feasibility. That is, can we actually implement some feature, something someone's dreamed up? Is this the best way to technically implement it? Might there be a better, faster, cheaper way of implementing it? So these three roles come together, and you can start to see how what they do is they really focus the team on the problem that you're solving, on achieving, if you'll pardon the phrase, the business value that the organization they work for needs, and also the value that it has for customers. One of the benefits that you get in having this team together is because they work together, focused on one application, release after release, they gel together more. There's more of a shared understanding of how things work, which means they can start to make decisions much faster than if these roles were separate. They get very familiar with the problems they're solving, the customers, and it allows them to operate much more quickly and make a lot more decisions. And that is in contrast if you have a bunch of different functions and you're passing context and an understanding of what the problem is from your PRD or some big document, and the developers have to understand that, and then the product manager, the business analyst has to make sure they understand it. That get passed on to a designer. If you have all these separate functions, you start to lose context and really lose just kind of a knowledge of what's happening, and you get stuck just doing your own role instead of being focused on the problem as a whole, on the application. So that's a huge benefit that you get from a balanced team. Speed and a better understanding across all roles of the problem that you're actually solving, which means you end up putting better features in, prioritizing things more, and really thinking thinking on behalf of the business and on behalf of the user much better. Now, there's another benefit from a manager's perspective, the architecture you're building in your organization, the meatware. Within the team, there's a lot more resilience and cross-training going on. So most of these teams, at least when we do it in Tanzu Labs, they do rotating pairing where they pair up with each other and they rotate these pairs so they don't still always work with the same people or on the same part of the application. So everyone becomes a generalist. They understand how all of the application works. Within the team, this adds a huge amount of resilience. When someone goes on vacation, it's not a big deal because everyone knows how every part of the system works. It also means when you add someone new, because everyone knows how each section works and you're pairing, you can bring new people up to speed very quickly. Finally, there's another benefit that comes up a lot, and that is that people like working this way. It's encouraging to collaborate and work with people, to have a shared understanding, to be closer to the customer and to see how they're functioning. So this balanced team approach is core to a lot of the success that people who work with Tanzu Labs have had over the years. And you should really look into it and see if it's something that you can adopt when you're figuring out how to get better at software and really putting your digital transformation strategy in place. If you want to learn more, we've got a great article on the Tanzu Developer Center. You can see it's pretty brief and it goes over a lot of what I talked about. And if you want to go more in depth, there's also a white paper that you can read and check out. I'll put links to those down below there. And as always, if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk. If you want to see archives of this show and other things in this area, you can go to tanzutalk.com, find links to those things that I mentioned, and we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.